eyes in the sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light.
Well, today it gives me great pleasure to sit down and have a chat with Dennys Ilic. Dennys, thank you very much for your time today.
It's a pleasure, thank you for having me.
First of all, tell me, how does a guy from Geelong, Victoria, end up in one of the hottest, coolest places in Hollywood, Los Angeles? How does that happen?
That's a long and short story, but I think it really just came down to having a dream, you know, and I always jokingly told people that one of the things that I wanted to do more than anything is to have a space in Los Angeles, which I've always loved LA and America, that is a little bit like that old Andy Warhol factory.
Oh, yeah.
Where you would, minus the naked women in theatre masks and Super 8 cameras, but just a place that was a creative soup where people would just come and go and hang out. And when we have events here and get-togethers, you know, strangers would meet that are all in the industry and aspiring to do things and go off and create cool projects together. And you know, when you have a thought of something, whether you're actively pursuing it or not, somehow your mind is working on getting you to that goal one day, you know. And at times, you know, I worked actively to try to, you know, be here, and when I didn't, somehow it's one of those things you try to figure out the timeline, and it's really hard to work out. But it all really goes back to the days that I worked in JB Hi-Fi, you know, in Melbourne, and I was, you know, always interested in people, you know, and I had good friends that I made as customers there, and you know, it's kind of where my photographic career started. And one day I bought one of the cameras that I was selling to people, and I started taking pictures on the red carpet to movie premieres that I would be invited to.
Great.
And I just took the initiative to send those to the publicists that would invite me, and they really liked what I did. Wow. And they started hiring me to shoot on the red carpet. So I would be instilled with the actors and the artists, and doing photo shoots for you know, media in the hotel rooms and things like that, and doing portraits. And you know, next thing I know, I'm sort of like the instilled photographer on The Matrix and Lord of the Rings, and next thing I know, I'm photographing Daniel Radcliffe exclusively for 3 or 4 or 5 years. And how presto, here I am in Hollywood, you know. So it's just one of those things that I've loved movie and TV all my life, you know, especially science fiction. You know, as a kid, you know, Star Trek was something that I adored, and it's really, I pinch myself every day. It's a really bizarre feeling to be driving down Fountain Avenue and saying, wow, this is my home. And the people that I grew up admiring and loving, like my friends now, and I work with them, you know. It's a really beautiful feeling. It's bizarre, and I feel very gifted and very lucky, you know.
I just want to talk about that amazing photo of Daniel Radcliffe.
Yes.
Which is just, you know, so engaging that I have to keep looking at it and looking at it again. Tell me how that all evolved.
That particular, I'll just digress slightly and talk about that particular photograph, because he has a beautiful gleam in his eyes in that photograph, and you know, it's a 7.5 foot picture of Daniel Radcliffe where he's covering most of his face with his hand because he's laughing and smirking. So a lot of people don't even know it's him, you know. And I do have like years of beautiful portraits that could say, wow, look at this photograph that I took of, you know, Daniel Radcliffe. But that is my favourite because it's just a beautiful moment where, you know, it was a long day. We were shooting at the Sutton in London, and I was setting up my lights and tripping over cables, and he was just smirking and laughing at the old man stumbling about getting the shoot ready. And I just sort of had my camera hanging over my shoulder, and I just literally swung back and shot that. It was just an under the hip, and I didn't know it was there until I saw it when I went through the files, and it became my favourite photograph of him. But you know, the whole thing with the Harry Potter franchise and the Radcliffes, again, it goes back to a friend that I made in retail who was a publicist for Warner Brothers and Roadshow Films, and I was initially, you know, I couldn't be arbitrarily given work because, you know, they tender for bigger jobs and things like that, but I was asked to submit work to do a shoot with Daniel. I think it was in 2004 or 2005, because they needed publicity for the new Harry Potter film at the time, but he was holidaying in Australia. So, you know, there was a number of Australian photographers tendered for it. They ended up giving it to me, and I quickly became very good friends with the family after that shoot, and they kind of, you know, loved working with me. You know, my photo shoots with Daniel were always about, you know, playing music so loud that you could barely hear yourself talking to each other, which is, you know, if anybody knows Dan, they know how much he loves indie music and, you know, and all that sort of stuff. So I always made it a fun situation with him, and you know, we ended up doing you know, a shoot for December Boys and 3 or 4 Harry Potter films. And I'll just say that, you know, the reason I was doing these shoots was because if he's going to be in Vanity Fair and they're going to get Annie Leibovitz to photograph him, his publicity department will make time for a photo shoot like that. But as you can imagine, whenever there was a big film, like one of the Potter films coming out, every single magazine in the world wanted a cover photo or an exclusive. So what they would do for me is give me Daniel for between 8 to 10 hours. And what I would have to do is create enough, you know, variety of photography that those images could be farmed out to 20 or 30 different magazines, look like individual shoots, and then the flow on, and then there's even more. So what would happen is I would, like, for example, the one that we did in London, you know, we got it would always be different. The first one was at Luna Park. So we shut down Luna Park. We created an old New York rundown, you know, running water on the walls, New York apartment in one corner. We created the very, you know, beautiful music suite in the other corner, and then we were doing stuff out in the rides and things like that. But in London, we found the Sutton in their presidential suite. It was like, it was all Philip Stark designed, you know. So every 10 degrees you turned, it looked eclectic and completely different. So, you know, we went over there with like $160,000 of clothes from Australia, and basically with our stylist worked out the outfit for each corner, and it was just like you know, it was fun. It was a production line that was like hair, clothes, bang, do cool shots, hair, clothes, bang, do cool shots. And then I submit 600 finished shots to Warner Brothers, and then they farm those out to all the different you know, magazines and networks, and you know, we got quite a few cover magazines and hundreds of spreads, and you know, so it was and that's how that all happened. And you know, I became they're incredibly beautiful people, the Radcliffes. You know, his mother and father and Daniel are all grounded and just very kind, compassionate human beings, and his parents were kind of, you know, just like almost took me under their wing as their own as well, you know. So I love them dearly. They're really great people. So.
And you're in regular contact with them?
Yeah. So whenever I go to New York, I catch up with them. If on the irregular occasions that I go to London, if they're there, I'll catch up with them there. They split their time between New York and London, so.
Of course, yeah. The A-list celebrities that you have photographed is quite amazing. I got quite a surprise when I was reading through your bio. People like Sandra Bullock, Ryan Reynolds, Jessica Biel, Orlando Bloom, Jada Pinkett Smith. Now tell me honestly, is it hard to photograph celebrities?
One thing that you soon learn as a photographer is if you start to work with anybody that is in this business, whether they're musicians or actors, is that they're trained to do exactly what you want them to do. You know? So it was actually really funny, because what was happening to me is, because of that, you know, that image that I was getting for those shots back in Australia, I was getting, you know, asked to do really big corporate shoots, you know, like bankers and CFOs and CEOs of major companies, you know, and it was really great. I thought, wow, you know, this is really good money, and you know, I'll do some really cool stuff like I do with my actors. But you very quickly learn that the average person can't, you know, if I tell an actor to look very introspective and insular, and I want that I really want to, you know, that photograph to look like we're looking into their soul, they go into those places, you know, to be able to do that almost instantaneously. And you get spoiled doing nothing but that for a long time. So when you go to do a photograph, you go, you know, you do a cover shot for BRW, and you're thinking you're going to get something similar with this executive, and they're kind of like, It's tough. So you know what, the fact of the matter is that it's very easy to get a beautiful shot of a well-trained actor. You know,
have you ever?
I don't want to overstate that I'm good, because it's kind of like, you know, being given the fastest car in the world and you know, being able to win a race with it.
Yeah,
So,
sure. Is there a particular celebrity, now no names mentioned, that has asked you not to use a photo or has not been happy with the photograph that you took of them?
Yeah, it's very case by case, because there are different reasons you photograph people, and obviously if I'm being hired by a studio to do something specific, straight away you're signing, you know, various contracts and rights to do things with those photographs. So I have been often surprised that you know, and I quickly learned not to over service, like say, okay, here's 200 photographs to choose from, because somehow every time, you know, people, it's almost like they go out of their way to pick what you feel are the worst of the photographs.
Sure.
So, my work varies between commissioned and self-commissioned work.
Okay.
You know, so things like this Men of Science Fiction book, it's all self-commissioned photographs. You know, there are publicity shoots there that I've been hired to do, but then followed up with the actor at another time and collaborated with them on shoots. So what we do is we do fun stuff that we want to do together to present that person in a particular image. And then just out of respect, I always run through the photographs that I want to expose to the public with an actor, because it you know, by and large, because to get the sort of photographs I like to get, you kind of need to know that person.
Yeah.
It's very hard to do a cold turkey on the day that you've met them for the first time and get the thing that people in particular love about my work. You can't do that. So at the end of the day, pretty much every one of these people are good friends of mine.
Yeah.
You know? So out of respect, I always send them the photographs, say these are the ones we want to use, and we all sign off on them.
You've lived here quite a while now in LA. What is it that you think that the Yanks particularly like about Aussies?
Well, I think that, you know, you can't dismiss the love of anything exotic that's a little bit different, you know, to what you're used to. Australia has, you know, it's a beautiful place, you know. So you know, when you come from somewhere that is everybody, like, you know, there's no one here you can meet that it isn't on their bucket list. You know, to us, we just go back and forth all the time, you know. But for Americans, it's like a big deal. It's like a bucket list to go to Australia one day. And I think there is a wonderful work ethic that Australians have that Americans appreciate. Australians tend to be, as you know, self-deprecating, generally quite humble, and what I've learned is that Americans love nothing more than talent mixed with humility.
Right.
And Australians, and actors in particular, are just, you know, really good. You know, they're great, and they come out of NIDA, and there's all this classical.
Yes.
There's a classical background. You know, there isn't this, you know, self-taught thing going on, and it's you know, and it's the same with British actors too. You know, there is this real, no matter how rough and tumble and 3-day growth you are, there's this Shakespearean edge to British and Australian actors.
It was interesting today as we both attended the handprint and footprint ceremony with Stan Lee, and again I think it was sort of exemplified, saying there's this man with this amazing talent but such humility. And I love the way he said, you know, I've loved meeting all the ordinary people along the way, which was just really resonated with me, you know.
Absolutely.
Now you've developed a really amazing space here. Can you just talk me through some of the photographs that are hanging here?
I think, you know, most recently there's a couple of really big images here from the TV series Longmire. And that sort of was the first time we've really, you know, almost gone out with such a purpose to get these epic, you know, American big country looks, you know. It was a very cool and iconic TV series, which is led by an Australian actor, Robert Taylor, of course. And you know, it's set in Buffalo, Wyoming, but shot in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And you know, those photographs, like they're super panoramic. We've got one there that's 13.9 feet wide. And you know, there's this beautiful colour and reds and blues and the sun setting, and you've got this, you know, cowboy hat wearing dude, you know, and I just really enjoy doing that just from the perspective of being on the set of that series and getting these great big images. And that was facilitated and brought about by the director, TJ Scott, who's my business partner in the gallery as well. A very prolific director. He's off doing Star Trek at the moment, and he does Gotham and Orphan Black, all these great big shows. And you know, it was via invitation through him and you know, the great producers of the show that allowed me to have basically you know, completely uncontracted to work on the series, unsigned or anything like that, and they just gave me full access to do this thing. We created this beautiful 200-page coffee table book, you know, with portraits of Lou Diamond Phillips and all that sort of thing. And
that's great.
And that really blew up on Kickstarter, did really well. And then we, you know, Netflix ended up buying 350 copies of the book to hand out to the cast and crew. So I don't know what that is.
It's an amazing compilation.
Thank you. Yeah. The other probably besides obviously the shots of Dan, we had a really fun shoot with Carl Urban. That that always sort of feeds into my geekdism, because he's, you know, Star Trek, you know, Dr. McCoy. But probably my favourite shoots have always been with Tricia Helfer and Katie Sackhoff, the actresses from Battlestar Galactica, and Katie is in Longmire as well, and Tricia is in quite a number of shows at the moment. She's in Lucifer, I think. But we did this beautiful nude where they just got their legs interlocked and they're kind of holding each other. They're best friends. And that photograph is a standout in the gallery. Everybody seems to love that.
Dennys, what projects are you going to be working on over the next 12 months?
We're sort of doing a little bit of a publishing thing at the moment. I love books more than anything, as does TJ. So we've done the Longmire book, we've done the Men of Sci-Fi book, which was my first real book. TJ is doing In the Tub, which is a volume 2 we're about to release now, which, you know, 100% of the profits go to breast cancer research.
Great.
And I'm working on Women of Science Fiction, so that's coming up. TJ and I are working on a book called Lazy Sundays, which is, you know, actors and sports people first thing in the morning on the Sunday.
I love
that sort of thing, cigarette, coffee, that sort of stuff. And aside from that, we've got a very exciting merger happening with, you know, we're about 4,500 square feet here, and the 2,000 square feet, which we call the glass room, that has all the windows over Hollywood Boulevard. We're working with Strange Music, which is one of the biggest independent rap labels in the world. Tech Nine and Travis again, you know, I've been working with them for 5 years now. They're like family, and we're very, very excited to be bringing them from Kansas City to Los Angeles to start you know, attacking the West Coast basically with their brand. So that's a big deal for us. So it's a lot of fun, and of course we're always doing things with Sweet Store, candy bars, and cool projects. But we do events here all the time. We had a really beautiful CD album launch here last weekend that you attended.
Chatting with Olivia.
Yeah, she's absolutely awesome. And then we've got the Longmire book launch in 2 weeks, and then we've got the In the Tub book launch 2 weeks after that. So these are all big, you know, 500 people VIP parties, and it's good fun. So just administering all that sort of stuff. Have a little less time for photography. I'm more of a party planner than a photographer, so I'm a bit, you know, but, you know, as we put on staff to take care of that sort of thing, I'll get back to doing more of it. But,
well, Dennys Ilic, it's been absolutely amazing talking with you. Such a talented man and very humble, and it's great just to come across an Aussie who has done so well here in LA. So thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to meeting you again in the future.
It's been a great pleasure being here with you, and I'm so happy that you got to experience the studio. I hope you always feel free to call this place your home.
That's lovely. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Eyes in the sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light